Hey everyone, J-Rob Plays here, and today I'm bringing you a video just talking about the in-game and the state of the in-game in Destiny Rising, because that's going to be where a lot of people are already going to start to hit. Even some of the free-to-play players are going to be coming right up against the in-game, and I just want to just briefly touch over what the in-game modes are, and as you'll see some of them pop up here, it's pretty easy. They've done a good job with the menu system, kind of guiding you into where you need to go based on your level of characters that you have. So right now, my quick options are going to be Calamity Ops, the Expanse, and Challenge Mode. And so those are going to be the main things that a lot of people focus on. Under Haven Ops, you have Calamity Ops, which is the in-game strike running activity, which is really, I think, the real in-game, and I'll cover that one last. Gauntlet Ops, you're going to have the Gauntlet Onslaught. This was going to be where we just recently had the raid race. This is going to be the Destiny Rising version of the raid. They're actually short encounters that are timed, and they're also kind of speed runny as well. A lot of the speedrun tactics are going to help you get through the encounter quicker and more successfully. So learning how to do those is going to speed things right along. Then the next thing you're going to be looking at is the higher and legendary campaign. These are going to be the challenge modes. They're going to have you go in with specific set characters. You can go in with any character that you want, but there's going to be character requirements. So you're going to need a way to deal with certain shinkas and certain shields, and you're going to have to do so under a certain time limit to get the maximum rewards. Now, the great thing is there's character borrowing. So if you don't have a character, you can actually choose something. You can come into here and you can pick a character based on somebody else's build. And you can see I have a friend that's got a 73,000 Yolder. I can run that Yolder instead of my Yolder if I wanted to run Yolder. In this case, I can clear this with Wolf because Wolf can deal with Impact Shinkas with his Smart Bomb. And a lot of people don't know that. In this video, I'll be talking about that numerous times, how good Wolf actually is and can be in a lot of these things, including in Calamity Ops. There's a lot of slander going on around Wolf. He was nerfed, I guess, from the beta to here, so people are not super happy about that. But if they continue to complain, he'll probably get buffed again, and then he'll be the meta along with Ningfei, right? So next thing we're looking at is going to be the challenge mode. I always recommend people in my other videos to skip Master and to wait for Grandmaster, because when you do the Master activities, you're going to have one set challenge rewards with the keys, but they're going to be missing a key component, which is going to be the metastable cores. Those are going to be used to give yourself the seasonal weapon level increase to get your level of weapons to 85. And so just to give you an example on that, if you haven't done that before, if you're still learning the game, as you can see, my Ningfeng has 2 level 85 weapons. He's got his exotic and his primary at level 85. I've been spending my currencies on him to try to get him up so that I can use him more effectively in higher in Calamity Ops. But Wolf was my original spin because, again, in my other videos, if you watched, you saw that I had initially put a lot of resources into him. He was my first gold medal. And so I kind of just went with it and I said, whatever, I'm just going to main Wolf. I'm still saving up. Even with after all this time, I still haven't maxed out his to 85 yet because I was using it for other characters' power so I can get their medals and get the acclaim. I still need 2 more keys worth of spend in order to get enough of these metastable cores in order to finish off Wolf's 2 weapons, because I already have his primary at 85. And so again, those are going to last to the end of the season, but they're still going to give you that additional bit of power to help you get a little bit extra damage in and to help you get a little bit better time, because that's going to be where the end game goes. Before leaving GM, I just also want to touch on the fact that I'm going to be making a different video talking about some of the reward systems, because with GM right now, its purpose is mainly just to get in and get your key rewards. I don't even spend pinnacle points in GMs unless I happen to need the Luminite choice chest and the Luminite from here, and I'm already doing it, and I was already going to do that somewhere else. Then that's fine. But normally when you do those things, you're still going to want to use Iron Commander in order to get those, because whenever you're doing these things, you send somebody on a blitz, you send somebody on a strike, you got that 10% for bonus rewards. I've seen people get double exotics, things of that nature. You can get double of the materials. So it's actually right now more beneficial to not do those activities yourself with your pinnacle, but to allow your teams to do those so that you can get the additional rewards, and you can do that up to 3 times per day right now with what you have available in the claim system. Now let's touch on the 2 more difficult ones, starting with the Realm of the Nine. Now with the Realm of the Nine, you're going to run through your singularity, and you're going to get kind of used to the cadence of hitting a level, getting an upgrade, hitting a level, getting an upgrade, and kind of building an upgrade path that gives you greater power to allow you to get through these more successfully. Well, when you get to the Expanse, you're going to do that one time, but then you're going to want to continue to do that depending on where you are in your power level, because as you see, it's very rewarding. You've got tons of Mobius clusters, you've got tons of Lumia leaves, you get a ton of fruit your first time through, you even get artifacts, and later on you start getting artifact choice chests, and that's going to be with the keys. So if you haven't fully finished your Expanse yet, this is going to be the next step. You're going to be trying to clear these. You get one each side, and there's two sides. Some people don't know that there's a void and a solar side right now. Soon there's going to be an arc and a solar side, so you're going to have arc characters running through here, which most people are already going to have Ning. They're going to blast through it. Ning is already actually able to clear both sides of this expanse himself too, with how powerful he is. So that's just, again, one thing that the developers kind of need to address, is just the power imbalance in some of the units. But when it comes to the end game here, your goal is to get your level 7 and your level 9, or should I say level 5 rewards on both, but 7-minute and 9-minute rewards in either side. Now, I've already done this with Wolf on the left side here. On the right side, I still have to go back with Gwen. I can also go in there with Ning Fei and try to get that done, and I made just to play around with it to see just how strong he is in the Void side. People have been talking him up on the Void side. To knock out this last reward here, you're going to take this mysterious key, you're going to go to the treasure hall, and then when you go to the treasure hall, there's going to be a bunch of chests available, and you'll be able to run up to the chest with your key. It's very similar to like Xur's treasure hoard if you've ever played Destiny 2, and you run in and you were doing some of the original Rite of the Nine stuff, or even before that, if you were doing like the Star Horse stuff when you were getting the, I forget what the 6-man player activity was called, but you run through the 6-man player activity, you come in and you grab chests. There's chests all over the place, and you just run in here and you grab them, and as you do, you're going to get your choice chest for your exotic artifact, and then you're also going to get some artifact dust, and you're also going to get materials that you'll need to refactor those artifacts. So it gives you pretty much everything that you need in that one-stop shop, and that's going to be the Expanse side of things. That's one set of the endgame. Now the final endgame, and really the final boss of endgame, because now you're not just going against a timer and yourself and your own skill. Now we're going to be pitted against other players. And a lot of people struggle to understand, even content creators, exactly how they've set up the Calamity Ops. And I'm like, I don't have the exact specs behind it or the numbers behind it, but just to go over the way that it works and the way that people have been confused about the differences of it, is that it throws you into a group of players randomly selected. In this case, you can see your set. If you click into the promotion zone, you'll see my current zone is 3 in NA. So if you're on a different server, you'll be in a different grouping, but also in the NA server, you may be in zone 1, 2, 3. If there's a 4, 5, or 6, I don't know. But my zone 3 has players in it up to a certain amount. And if you're looking, the maximum amount of players, it seems like, is 200. And so I have these 200 players, these same 200 players locked with me for these 2 weeks that I'm in Calamity Ops, because that's the turnaround time. Both the Expanse and Calamity Ops share that reset, that 2-week reset. And so you'll be getting new sets of rewards each time. But with Calamity Ops, the difference is that when you start at the bottom, you first get your little cycle rewards, you jump up, you're going to get your rank rewards, you jump up again, you're going to get your rank rewards again, and again, and again. And you're going to keep doing that and keep getting escalating rank rewards more and more, and they'll get better and better as you go until you hit a wall. And by what I mean by a wall is that you're going to be in a situation where the players in your zone, if you happen to get unlucky and get some of the best players on your server in your zone, are going to absolutely push you down no matter where you are in your rankings. So like the first day, I can come out and drop a 306 like I have right now, and if somebody comes out and behind me and a bunch of players behind me, enough come out and drop 307, 308, 309, this number here that you see, this is 291,720, will not be that. It'll end up being like 310, for example, and this 310 will jump to 315. And so as long as I get in that range, I can stay. If I get over this range, I can get in the promotion zone. But then when I'm in the promotion zone, I'm not safe, because until the very last minute of the last day, people can still come in, and people can still come in there and knock you down and knock you out. So like right now, since I haven't really done much other than get into the unchanged zone, the zone in which I can keep my rewards, which right now for my cycle is going to be 5 incandescence clusters, 25 exotic weapon infusion core, and 1,000 Lumia leaves. If I just do nothing and the scores happen to not change, or somebody comes in there and doesn't bump me out, then I'll get these rewards. But if I do nothing and people continually below me will start to increase their score and increase their score, I'm going to get pushed further and further down until I hit this threshold here. You see the 100 threshold, and then now I'm going to be pushed back into Expert 1, where I'll have the chance to promote again. However, when I promote again, I'm not going to get these rewards again. These rewards don't reset for 33 days and 9 hours, you can see here. So these rewards I won't get again. I'll just get the cycle rewards of whatever that tier is that I'm in. So even if I go back, get re-promoted, it's not going to be something that I can say, hey, it's beneficial. It's actually a negative experience, because I'm going to be having to do the same work for less rewards. And so right now, my goal is going to be to push other players out of their placing. And so since I'm in the middle, the person that's before me that's hit me is iRevoker here, and if you're watching, hello. I have to go and hit a score of 310,501, for example, and iRevoker will no longer be in the promotion zone. And next week, he will no longer get into the Master 1. He's not going to get his additional 2 incandescent clusters, 20 weapon cores, and 100 Lumia leaves. He's just going to get the 5, 25, and 1,000. Whereas if I get promoted, I'm going to get these rewards here on the left. I'm going to get these 100 Lumia leaves, these 20 exotic weapon fusion cores, and 2 more clusters, which are super important right away. And then I'll get a chance to compete in the new bracket with whatever my grouping is there. And I'll be able to try and go for maybe 5 clusters and 30 infusion cores compared to my 525 if I can get into the unchanged. If I have a really cracked team and I can get up into the Master 2, which, again, I don't have anybody that I'm playing with right now unless I meet some other content creators and we take a crack at it. That's the only way that I can see myself getting here on my own, or if I get really lucky in a pickup group, just doing my daily 6 that you can do, then I'm going to be stuck here, very likely, on Master 1, and that's just going to be where I live until the 33 days, everybody gets reset, and then I can go back through and start collecting the rank rewards as I promote throughout the week with my attempts. Now, talking about the attempts, a lot of people will recommend that you obviously do your 6 attempts per day. They will renew it 6 per day, so I can do all the way down to 6 out of 12, and I'll have 12 out of 12 the next day. If I go all the way down to 0 out of 12, I'll still only have 6 out of 12 the next day. So you do your 6 attempts per day, and those people are doing that in an attempt to try to get with a team to get a higher score. But if you're not improving your character, if you're not making any changes, if you don't get lucky and just happen to get 2 other players that really don't have anybody that they normally play with and they're just bored and want to do some Calamity Ops, or they're taking a unit through to test it out and they're just cracked as well and they help speed you along, it's kind of a luck of the draw situation. A lot of times you're going to have one other decent player and one player who absolutely throws. That's just my experience. And you're going to continue to do that again and again until you get 2 other decent players, get lucky, and then get a decent score. And that's the experience of like a solo player or a player who only LFGs, essentially, in the Foundry this week. That's going to be this week's. Last week's Fulminator was a little easier. The Foundry is a little bit harder just because of how long the strike is, how much running there is. It's going to favor movement characters, which is why in the thumbnail you see I have a picture of Ningfei, who is in his boost mode, because that's basically how your whole game looks. Like your game is literally a blur, whatever the in-game activity is, and Ningfei doing his dash and getting into his speed boost, and then you're going to be sliding until you get your dash back again, because you're just trying to eke out just enough speed so that you can pull your teammates forward who are slower. Or if you're on Wolf, you're going to be using your signature abilities, and that's going to give everybody else a speed boost, and you can pull your team together as a group. And so that brings me to my other points, is the units that people are favoring are obviously going to be Estella, Gwen, Ningfei is number 1, of course. And then it kind of goes from there. Everybody else seems to be treated as like an off meta. And so a lot of people were running it like 2 Estella with a Ning. You're going to see groups with 2 Nings and a Gwen just to get through the impact Shinkas. But everybody's sleeping on Wolf, and Wolf actually has the ability to handle all the Shinkas in this particular Calamity Ops strike without really any problem. As long as you're mastering your ability to get your shield up, you get into the Shinka bubble for the impact Shinka, you hit him with your debuff, and then you use your Smart Bomb in Smart Bomb mode, you can actually knock down his shields in 2 or 3 shots. 2 shots if you have a little bit of help from somebody in there with you, 3 shots if you're by yourself. The other 2 shots weaken him, and if your other 2 players are doing their job, you shouldn't really have to use too much of your heavy ammo from there, and then you can move right along and start using your signature ability to speed you down the hallway into the next room until you get to the rapid fire Shinkas. Now, the rapid fire Shinkas with the right weapon, you can also do good on Wolf. A lot of players are using the double thumbs up roll, and I was using that double thumbs up roll as well. That's going to be this here. The ensuring yields roll is nice when it comes to chewing through enemies as you're reloading, but this roll here is actually the best role for me in my experience for Shinka stopping, because you have this buff here that you get when your fire team is full, and if your allies have full shields, which is fine, that's what you use for doing damage when you're not trying to use your heavy or you're out of heavy. But here, the time marches on. This one has shots have a 33% chance to consume 3 rounds and deal 3 times the damage, meaning that your shots will shoot out those 3 rounds, and the shields come down a little faster, similar to how Ningfei shoots additional rounds with his Mahama Yuri. That's why I run that roll, because it helps do that additional little tick damage to the shield to get it down faster. And you can also run rolls that increase your speed. So you can run Fire Rush, and if you're on the lower half of the magazine and you're running something like that, you can actually really chew through the shield. But again, I didn't want to give up the damage boost that I was getting with my fire team being alive from Trink. And so in this case, I think that this is probably one of the better roles to roll with, but you can do whatever you like. It's just my point is that Wolf can handle rapid fire Shinkas, Wolf can handle impact Shinkas, and of course, Wolf is designed and built for handling spread Shinkas with the Smart Bomb. And with the Smart Bomb, he's actually very efficient with his heavy. You hardly ever run out of heavy ammo because you're usually using your super not to do damage to enemies using the super itself, but actually to load the Smart Bombs. And if you're running a proper build, your Smart Bombs do a ton of damage, like hundreds of thousands of damage. So on my build here, if you're looking at the setup that I have Explosive Shell. Projectiles gain 48% blast damage and blast radius on direct hits, meaning I do more damage when I hit the target, usually a boss target, and I hit more of the ads around, removing their shields and also cleaning them up, so you get a lot of total damage in on a good Wolf build. Same thing with Courageous Planetismal, casting any ability, which you're going to be casting your Wolf Strike quite a bit to build up your shields, to get additional damage. That helps you. Healing Veil, stay alive if you're running survivability issues, and then Unrelenting Subgravity. Wolf is a hunter, so you're going to be jumping in the air a lot anyways on a hunter build. That's just kind of part of the hunter kit. You're going to be airborne, so you might as well use that to take a lot less damage. And then when you combine that with keeping yourself shielded with Wolf Strike, with getting health back through casting movement abilities, those things are going to keep you alive. And yeah, you may get a little low sometimes when you're popping Shinkas that are not your type, and you may get a low sometimes when you're pushing a boss. But as long as you stay alive and you're pushing it, it doesn't matter if you have 1 HP, you get your shield back, you get the damage in, and you finish, as long as you finish the encounter and in a short period of time, right? Because speedrunning is basically the name of the game and the end game here. Speedrunning is going to be the reason why these units stand out. So Ningfei, of course, stands out. Gwen is actually pretty fast too. She can teleport with her ability a couple times, and so those units will keep up. And that's why those units are always there. A lot of people, again, don't know about Wolf's additional boost of movement speed whenever he uses his signature abilities, but now that you do, you won't maybe be so put off if you get a good Wolf in your group. Problem is because Wolf is like the first unit that everybody kind of interacts with. A lot of people have Wolf, so you're going to have a lot of casual players with Wolf. So more often than not, you're not going to have a good Wolf in your party, but you'll know really quickly based on them running through and just decimating Shinkas in front of you that they're not supposed to, if it's a good Wolf or not. Estella has been hit or miss with me because while Estella has a lot of good damage, for some reason it's the Estella player that's actually throwing. For whatever reason, they're always the one that dies. They mess up their super. They cast it at the wrong time. They're not shooting the bubbles because they're so used to just standing still and shooting. The bubbles in this Calamity Ops will encase you and do damage to you until you can pop your bubble or somebody pops you out. And somebody can be bubbled right next to these Estellas, and they're just not looking. They're just totally tunnel visioned and worried about their bar and stuff, and they're not looking to shoot you out. And they have a good weapon to shoot you out usually, as the pulse rifle, or they can use the LMG, depending on their build. I even had one player who was on Estella, saw that I was on Wolf, complained that I was on Wolf and that how I'm going to do 2% damage. And then when I retorted back, if I do 2% of the damage, and that means you're doing 98% more damage than me, then we're going to be doing awesome. Otherwise, if I out damage you, you're on Estella, you should be ashamed. They waited until the last second and then backed out of the Calamity Ops just so that me and the other guy got locked in there, and then we got docked a try because they waited right until it was time and we had to leave during the activity. If they leave ahead of time and you get put in, it's fine. You won't lose the attempt, but we lost the attempt just because that player was being salty about being with the Wolf. And again, it's whatever reason, the Estella players. I'm not trying to say that you watching this as an Estella player like that. Hopefully the people that watch my channel and my viewers are a lot less toxic than some of the people you can run into in the Destiny community. But just overall, like the Estella players, like they just need to pick it up for some reason. You would think that they're the one that's going to be the less problem because all they have to do is literally sit there and just deal tons of damage and keep their summons out, very similar to like a warlock in World of Warcraft. If they're running something like Affliction or Demolition, their job is just to pump out heavy damage, and the Affliction warlock is to keep their curses up and make sure they don't drop off because they pump out heavy damages. And so that's a very similar playstyle to Stella. So you would think that that would translate well, but with that additional movement and with the way that this game is fast paced, it just throws them off for some reason. So in the other video I made talking about the acclaim system, I just want to touch on that really quickly and why I recommend waiting on Calamity Ops in order to do that toward the end of the week is because, again, right now I have my score in there and my score is a target. And if you're looking at the scores, you can say, all right, so here's my score I need to beat, 291, 720. So this is my goal. So I'm going to keep playing over and over again these last 2 or 3 days until I get over 291, 720. But if I'm this person and I got my 291, 720 early on and I'm just sitting on it And then on that last day too, I start going in there and iterating and iterating. Now I'm no longer this 291, 720. Now I can end up being this higher person. I could end up getting into the 310 range. So somebody else who was sleeping on their score thinking, oh, I'm in the unchanged zone, I'm good, they're going to get knocked out because they don't realize, a lot of players don't necessarily realize that they're not competing just to get into a certain threshold score wise. They're competing against an ever changing target based on the players in their zone. So all of these players in zone 3, it says here again, light bearers will be randomly assigned to a battle zone. They're going to continue to up their score until they hit the promotion zone. If they get promoted out, it's going to bring somebody in. And if it brings somebody in, that person is then going to get a chance to place their score. And are they going to be in the relegation zone? Are they going to be in the unchanged zone? If that's the case, they're going to push somebody down to the relegation zone. So that's just how the game is designed right now. I mean, hate it or love it, that's basically how it is. I kind of enjoy the competitive aspect of it. I just kind of feel bad for people who don't know, and the fact that the rewards tied to it are so important to the game. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that we were getting incandescent clusters mainly from this activity, if you can get incandescent clusters from the raid, if you can get them from certain events that are happening more often, which again, I'll go through on how to fix Destiny Rising in a separate video, and suggestions that I've heard that I like, that I agree with, and that I can expound upon. I think that having the clusters be tied to a leaderboard type system is going to really sour a lot of people and force them away from the game if they continue to hit the relegation zone, because nobody wants to feel like they're a loser. And in this situation, there's winners and losers, because relegation people will go back a step, and if you go back far enough, you lose a lot of rewards. You're going to lose a whole cluster, which is 25% of your rewards. You're going to lose the fact that you're even getting weapon infusion cores, which are few and far between, and weapons take a lot of infusion cores. I mean, I'm still working on the crossbow. I still need to save up the 100 cores. I've only got 61 right now between all of my activities and all of my spin. And I still need another 40, another 50, and another 60. So I need another 150 plus the additional 40 or 39 that I'm waiting just to get this done. And then, of course, as a lot of people have discussed, the photons are so rare that you need to buy them from the black market. So it's not like I can go and buy these cores in the black market, because all my black market coins are going into photons, because you're going to need 2, 4, 6 for this final row. The way the game is designed, the way the game is built, it's kind of going to run counter to a lot of Destiny players' feelings on how a game should play, because we've been conditioned for so long that if we grind something long enough, that we'll get our rewards. But now we're getting into a situation where no amount of grinding will get you that reward, because you can basically be outplayed, not necessarily outskilled, but just outplayed by a person who invested in a character that they didn't even know was going to be meta yet, who happened to become meta. Right? So a lot of the people who originally started playing this game, when you play these underpowered characters, or these characters in their underpowered modes, like Ning, when I first played Ning, I wasn't happy with him because I didn't have his crossbow. I didn't even know how good it was. I didn't realize what his abilities do as you level him up in your talent tree and how much of a change that is. And so now for me, I thought that I was getting unlucky myself, because I kept getting nothing but his drops in the store when I was doing draws. I was trying to get Tan, and I was trying to get Yolder because I wanted to play Tan and Yolder, and it kept giving me Ning, and now I'm happy because now again I was able to get this one from some of the kits. I got the rest of these just from the draw. This one here I think I got from the 180 system when I didn't pick and it just defaulted me to Ning. And then I got a couple more draws. I was able to snag this last one here from the store because I was able to have enough crystals to get his monthly crystal, which again resets every month. So you do have a chance once a month, when you have enough items that you have picked up in your store, that you can actually get it. But for most people, they're not going to see a T6 Ning. They may see him in game running past them, and they may see them on the leaderboards, but they're not going to actually touch Ning, and they're not going to know how good it feels to have this T6 Ning and how really overpowered he is compared to some of the other units, especially in the way that the ops on Calamity Ops are designed. They're all designed to be sped through efficiently and at a fierce pace, and that's literally Ning Fei's kit. He's a fierce, close-range, fast fighter, and Wolf is very similar. He's a fierce, close-range to mid-range, fast fighter. Wen is a very powerful and a very strong overall unit at taking and giving out damage at the same time and generating her power that way. And since she's a shotgun user, she's also strong in close range. So right now, with all these ops having people run from spot to spot to spot, the characters that do the best are going to be the best characters with speed and close range capability. which is why, again, you're going to have those three usually in the top end, and Yolder will sneak in there too, just because of her survivability, her ability to put out damage back. Partridge is actually a really good weapon to use now, and people have seen how it's very versatile. It can take out spread Shinkas. It's obviously good against the impact Shinkas. You know, her ability to drop the orb so that you can just stand and deliver damage right in front of the final boss, or in front of a Shinka that you may need to pop and you may need to recover. Just overall, good kit. So a lot of Yolders, it'll be like two Ning Phase and a Yolder, and the Ning Phase will pull the Yolder, so it doesn't matter if the Yolder's slow, they get it done rather quickly as well and efficiently without dying, and so on and so forth. So that's the meta. That's where the game is at. The game needs a lot of things to change, in my opinion, in order to kind of catch up to competition. And like I said, I'm going to make a separate video on that. They may be out today, they may be out tomorrow, but that's coming soon. And that whole scenario, the way that the end game is designed currently, is going to be counter to what a Destiny player is used to. A Destiny player, for the most part, is a casual player, not a top-end player. Like all the streamers, all the high-end content and contest mode players are a small group. We're like, again, the top 5% of the community, essentially. And people that interact with that, and you can see that with the emblems, you can see that with the raid reports and stuff, are not indicative of a normal player, whether it's PvP or PvE side. A normal player logs in, plays for an hour or two a day, and regardless of where their skill level is, if they play enough, will usually get something as a reward that they're trying to get, and get it the way they want it, for the most part. There was some issues with waiting, like wait gate, when it comes to certain perks and stuff like that, that did hurt players that played like that, but it was resolved. And in this game, there's really not a big waiting issue per se, as far as WEIGHT waiting issue. Now the game has a waiting issue, WAIT waiting issue, because of the pinnacle system and preventing players from grinding and filling out units, because Destiny players like to play all the units. Most Destiny players have all three classes. There's a few that'll run one class 3 times, so they can do 3 times the pinnacle, but that was ruined with the portal, so that ruined that player. And there's a couple that have, 2 that they like, and they don't have a 3rd class that they like, so they run an extra character to handle like exploits and stuff that like Cheese Forever brings up. And that's essentially what a Destiny player looks like when it comes to the character system, is they have all 3 characters and they run all the classes, all the builds, and you can't do that here. With this, if you're not a spender, you're not going to be able to run all the builds. You're not going to be able to have all the characters. You're going to have characters who just sit in the back, like Ikora, like Sean Wei for me, Finala. Kabir was the first person that had an exotic. I just happened to also have that same exotic for Stella, so I was able to get a Stella up because I put into Kabir, being my first exotic, nothing else to put into but this exotic, put some of the resources that I would have needed later on for other characters into Kabir, and that did slow me down a little bit, as you can see. But it still worked out in the end because I could repurpose that exotic to other characters. But again, this game is tying certain exotics and certain weapon types to characters, and if you are a pulse rifle enjoyer, but you don't have a good Stella, for example, you may not really want to play the game because all you have is a Wolf and an Ikora and a Xuan Wei, because those are going to be the crystals that the game is giving you. I got Atal crystals like candy when I first started playing, to the point where that's basically the main reason why I was able to buy Ning Phase Crystal, is because all of the Atal pools that I had turned into the crystals that you used to buy the character crystal in the store. So Atal was maxed out for me early, and I enjoy her kit. She's actually really strong. She heals herself, does additional damage. Any friendly that she heals, they'll do additional damage. Crimson's always reloading. The missiles that are along with the shots are really strong, so it's like having micro missiles on all your weapons. Your weapons auto reload when you get these primary kills, and so it's just really strong overall when it comes to sustain on her. But damage wise, she's limited. Yes, a good Atal will hold their own and not be too far on the bottom of the damage leaderboards when it comes to raids and stuff, but you will be near the bottom or at the bottom if everybody else is good. So that's just the problem with Atal, is in a world where everybody's good around you, Atal falls off. She can't compete just because the other characters, the other units, are just that much more powerful and that much more specialized in what the current in-game is. So unless NetEase borrows from Bungie and brings over more types of in-game activities, or brings over more like 6-player activities, like a menagerie style activity, like some of the activities that we used to get for the seasonal content, those type of 6-player activities are a lot of fun, can be very rewarding. They're really good at matchmaking, and they can be varied in content in the way that you can bring in lots of different Shinka types and combinations that kind of feel like the Conquest do right now in Destiny 2. And those are good pieces of content. They're basically like proper GMs, not the Grandmaster that we experience in Destiny Rising right now. So again, I'll get into more of that in the other video, but I just want to talk about the in-game video and kind of the lack thereof for in-game that is just challenging overall to complete and not so much a speed run fest, which again, the thumbnail, if you look at that, is basically all you see if you're trying to be in-game top end, is the world blurring around you as you rip through these strikes at a breakneck pace just so that you can compete against somebody else doing the exact same thing and kind of hamster wheeling you that way. It's not an unenjoyable thing. It's actually fun, but it's just not something that Destiny players, I think, are used to, having to compete against other players just to do the normal content that they already do. Like imagine if you were in the portal running strikes, but you could only get loot if you got a better time than some other team that is also running a strike at the same time, like having this weird quasi strike gambit mode where you and another team spawn in at the same time, and whoever finishes first gets the loot, and whoever finishes second has to go and do it all over again until they finally beat a team or they get no loot. And that's essentially where you are right now when it comes to Calamity Ops and how that experience is. So interesting choice and interesting the way that it's played out. I look forward to the devs releasing more information, if they do, about how they're going to remedy some of these things and some of these sticking points. But until then, this is the end game. If this is something that you find engaging, jump right into Destiny Rising. If not, I recommend mainly just tempering your expectations, trying to find a good zone where you're comfortable in Calamity Ops, and just sticking with Unchanged every week so you get your consistent rewards, and just check back in 2 or 3 days before the end of the cycle, essentially, so that you get yourself Unchanged so that you're not going back and losing rewards. And that's basically how I would engage with it if I was just a casual who was not trying to sweat and get all the way to the end and spend time being in Master 2 or Overseer, for example. So other than that, though, if you have any additional questions or if you have any additional feedback on all of the in-game stuff that I covered, any suggestions that you may want to drop that I might happen to see before the next video, I would include them in the next video. Thanks again for watching to the end, and I'll see you guys in the next one.